Okay, this is going to be just real quick. Take a look at what has happened this morning and what our expectations are. So the first thing that's happened so far today was we had the market pop up and take out the group of sellers we were tracking yesterday, here and here. If you remember, they were sort of hovering their stops here with a little uncertainty about how the other side of the market was treating them. So we got that overnight when the market opened, which we can see right here. It popped up right into where their stops would have been sitting, filled those, they got liquidated and pushed out of the market. So today, right here at the open, the first thing we want to do, again, it's the same thing that happens every day, is look for the parties, see what their behavior is, and then once we have enough data points, you can start to piece together what makes the most sense moving forward. So let's take a look for the parties, and then, as things move forward, you can watch from here. So the first thing, we had decay down here, and watching this, remember decay initializes, it starts at 0. So it'll start here at 0, and it'll move down or up. So decay moving down right off the open, trapped orders right here. We have a buy position show up. Now, immediately what you want to do, and you can never forget this, you need to check for the response, especially in tension. And you see that tension mostly right here was flat. So the bears or the bulls did, the price moved away from their position, sure. But looking at tension, you could see not much of a response. Well, it took a while, and finally right here, the bears showed up to pick up a position. So there's our bearish position. And just before they showed up, you see this here, the bulls curl up tension. So we're seeing the bulls impact the market into the bearish position, which looks to me like they were laying in wait, waiting for those bears to show up before they did much. Now, we could see after that they picked up a position, we are essentially just sitting here sideways. There is not much happening on either front. You could see the bears did have some impact right there. If you can see that, this moved down a little bit, moved up a little bit. So we have both sides really doing stuff. So we can mark out their positions and right now get a landscape of where their positions are and where their stops are, which let's not show that. We'll make this is the bears. So we'll do a solid line there, about there, and this will be the bulls. So we'll do a green solid line. There we go. So we have about their positions, and if you were a bear, I mean, looking back from here, there's not a whole lot of other information to look at. I'd say if you get this to pop up a good chunk, maybe about there, you're going to let go. That's what I would assume. And your goal here is to start up a new position as best you can, and this will be the stops. We'll save this as the default just because we're going to draw some more stops here. Let me scoot this out of the way a little bit so we can just get a look at price. We'll draw another one. If you're here, potentially there, ways down here, maybe even further. I'd probably even a little bit further about here because of the gap down here that's going to be, again, the gappers are going to be very mouthwatery about there's this big old gap. So these guys, which I've talked about my feelings about gap traders before, not my favorite group of humans, but they'll be looking at that gap, and with this sideways market, it's going to look more and more tasty, and the reason for that is because we're not getting further away. Every time we come, it's like, oh, right here, it's like, it's this close, it's this close, it's constantly this close. So gap traders are going to be really looking at that, and their mouths are watering over it. They just really want to close that gap. So at this point, what we need to do is we need to ask if there is enough data to figure out which side makes more sense. Do we have one side that's confused, like yesterday? We have somebody who's clear or not clear about what's happening. And I think if we sort of take into consideration what happened, sorry, I say yesterday, I mean Friday, maybe that could shed a little light on this. So we had a nod here telling the bears they could do this. They thought they were going to get tension down to 0. And then the bulls lied, double cross. And now the bears got stuck underwater. Now today, basically what happened was betrayal. The bears got betrayed. They were given a nod by their peers. They could not pick up that position. It didn't work. It failed. They lost money. Betrayal. And betrayal is great for thinning out the herd on like a really deep level. So betrayal is something that will actually change the behavior of participants in a pretty decent way. So something I think that's important here, something in there, is that these bears, unlike these ones, you see these guys here yesterday, they were able, let me move my face, they were able to pick up trades in the relative highs. And again, but this one, look at this. This is just, it's like, what? What are you doing? Why would you position here? This is really lame. So if you think about it, instead of getting anything up near the highs, it was like waiting. And they're basically playing the game if you pay, so if it pays out, then play. This is a dangerous philosophy. In fact, this is the worst philosophy you can have. You don't want to see a market pay on a bet that you think is good. So if you have some reason to think there's value somewhere, and you wait until that value starts to pay out, pretty much always, if you wait until it pays out, if you wait for this, you miss out. Because what happens is markets will tick like this. It's just how it works. So you want to get in here at this price, and it moves up to here. Now, what you think is, okay, good, it paid. So you say, all right, well, I'll get in here then. Well, it doesn't quite move down enough to fill you at all. And then it moves further, and you start, we're at 0.2, but you start to experience the FOMO, the fear of missing out on your obvious good investment. Back here, you were right. And right here, you are late. And so what happens is we get what I like to call brutal pricing. And it's where it just never comes back. And the reason for this is because you say, well, okay, I'll take halfway. And so it doesn't come halfway. And it moves up. Gosh dang it. And then eventually you shove your position up right in there, and you get these are very predictable behaviors that humans do. So if you find some situation where you have a good investment, and that's at time 0, and you think that's a good investment, and you have whatever, you need to take that position as a good investment. If you wait until it pays first, you're at 0.1. And what ends up happening is good trades tend to break you. And you can see that they waited. It paid, came back, and finally they filled, and it just went right against them. This is a bad philosophy. It means that you're jaded, you're hurt, and you're really an easy target. So I don't think that these guys are really in the best mindset right now. Just seeing how this filled and what happened immediately after, I think they're spooked. I think they got spooked. So this is a little backwards, because you would think, oh, so they're spooked, right? What does that mean? Well, it means they're not holding. And this is a problem for the bulls. This is an issue, because if you remember the way that you pump tension, you want to get tension to go what, and you want price to go what, you need the counterparty. So this is anti-bullish. This is what this is, anti-bullish, when you can't get your counterparty to hold. So we could see that they waited till it was late. Is that reasonable? Yeah, they got totally betrayed yesterday. They waited till it was late, pops up, hits probably a couple people. I mean, it was immediate failure, and this is not good for them. This is starting to put a downward pressure on the market because you can't find a counterparty. And this is one of the issues we've seen a couple of times before. You have to have somebody to hold the bag. Otherwise, okay, so if you can't pump tension, let's just say this is off the table, you pay to drive price. That's your choice. If you want markets to move, you can pay for it, or you can find somebody else to do it. It's okay to pay for it if you think it's going to keep going. But at the all-time highs in the future in the index, and with everything that's been playing out, I don't think you should be having to pay for it. Up here, we should be seeing, sellers coming in trying to sell the all-time high because awesome. We should be seeing a lot of that stuff. So that's where we're at right now. What you need to pay attention to is going to be looking at how this acts as we move down. Can we find some buyers? Can we find some sellers? So this will be buyers. If it does a switch back, we have sellers. If we get this to rise again, we could find some sellers here. So minus for sellers, plus for buyers. Otherwise, if decay decides to move down, the next place to stop is here. And that's a ways to go. I mean, I probably don't have to tell you that the price movement that could happen to generate that move down is pretty decent. So keep these in mind. I think that right now we have a lean down where the market is leaning down because the bears are having a hard time holding on to their position. So I think we should find some bears, see if we can get them to hold on, and that may include finding another bullish position, finding some bears. So I think we could find bulls again, more bulls, this could happen, and then bears. So keep that in mind as we move forward. I still don't think there's enough data here to really say this is exactly where this is going. There's an obvious play out. So this is my quick recap for the morning to show you the things that I see and what I'm thinking about prices right now. Shoot me messages. Let me know what you guys see. And then I'll do a video a little bit later today walking through once I think there's enough information to see what's going to happen. All right. I'll see you guys later today.